how the world of tech has forgotten an entire generation. For example, did you know by 2050, older people will outnumber the young for the very first time? And it also estimated that there will be over 1 billion people over the age of 60 by 2025. So in our ageing global population, the proportion of older citizens is increasing rather than decreasing. But, and here is the big but for me, technology companies are completely ignoring this generation. And anyone that spent time with their grandparents over the holiday season, it struck me at least that this generation is locked out of this brave new tech world. Their kids lead busy lives and they seldom see them, but they don't have access to real-time sharing of statuses, stories, photos and videos. Essentially, they've been shut out. And although we don't talk about this, this leads to loneliness, which leads to much, much worse things. But it's all very well me, just a tech writer and tech podcaster, talking and debating these subjects, but I wanted to find out more from a doctor's point of view on the problem of loneliness and equally how technology can help. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with Dr. Kerry Burnnight from GrandPad. And she's going to tell us all about why loneliness is actually a bigger problem and it's actually a more dangerous problem than obesity and smoking, but also how technology can help. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Kerry. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Certainly. My name is Kerry Burnnight. I'm a gerontologist. So that is, I study aging. And for 20 years, I served as a professor in geriatric medicine in a medical school in California. And I had no intent of ever leaving that nice tenured life, except that I started to see how many of my patients had endured elder financial exploitation, and that financial exploitation went very quickly to physical manifestations of not having the money they needed for paying for care. So I've been looking and looking for a solution, and I started a nonprofit to that end as well. And what I found is that one of the very biggest risk factors is loneliness. And so I was looking and looking for a way that we could connect humans. And UK, where you're from, does such a really good job in doing that. So I wanted to learn from what the UK has done in connecting humans and then bring a California high-tech Silicon Valley solution to it.
And I'm so glad you mentioned the word loneliness there, because I've recently watched a TV appearance with you where you said something that completely blew me away. And you said that loneliness is actually a more dangerous problem in society than obesity and smoking, especially in older adults. I mean, can you just help set the scene and talk about the scale of the problem here?
I would love to, because I too, up until about 10 years ago, didn't know about this. And of course, I don't advocate smoking or obesity, but some very rigorous research showed us that being chronically lonely, as defined by wanting more social connection than you currently have, is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And although, we found it to be one of the biggest risk factors of elder abuse and neglect, it also had just a staggering connection to cognitive impairment in different forms of dementia. So one study showed us that those who are chronically lonely had a 64% increase in likelihood of cognitive impairment. So it's terrible news, and the scope of the problem is quite staggering, with almost 43% of adults age 65 and older wanting more interaction than they have. But there is very good news, and that is it is really something we can do something about. And so I am delighted across the world that people are starting to recognize its severity and its how common it is, and also to find innovative ways to combat it.
Your words will resonate with people listening all over the world. This is a global problem that we're dealing with here. And just during the holiday season recently, I personally noticed how households have gone from having 4 generations of people under one roof, laughing and enjoying each other's company, to everyone being face down on their smartphone screens. But what I really noticed is that the older adults there can often feel completely locked out of this new digital sharing world. For example, they don't have access to those latest family photos that are being shared every day, and people like you and I will take that for granted. I mean, is that something that you've noticed too? And do you think that in many ways technology has actually forgotten about an entire generation?
Absolutely. So what I would see, with hundreds and hundreds of patients is that every human wants to be connected, and we all enjoy photos and the accessibility to music and to games and to easily call and video call our loved ones. But our society has not designed products to capitalize on this incredible and growing and burgeoning population. So instead, what standard devices have done is they've said, here is tiny font with a hard little something to connect, with tiny little instructions and hard to hear. And now we're going to, quote, train you to use these devices. And so it's kind of a double whammy, because not only do we feel left out as older adults, but when we do try to jump in and be like our kids and grandkids, we're made to feel less than.